Welcome back to Tales from Our Dark Past. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of London's most dangerous tourist attractions. If you missed part 1, you can find it on our channel or featured at the end of this video. Now, let's jump back into our list of London's most dangerous attractions and tourist traps with the London Eye. The London Eye has become not only a much-loved tourist attraction, but is also a famous London landmark. It opened in 1999 to celebrate the new millennium. It's basically a giant Ferris wheel and it stands 135 metres tall. It has enclosed glass capsules for visitors to look out of and explore the breathtaking views over London. But unlike the Ferris wheel at your local fairground, the London Eye moves very slowly. So slow that visitors usually board their capsules whilst the wheel is still moving, stepping aboard as the capsules slowly glide by. It takes around 30 minutes for the London Eye to do a full rotation, so once you're on, that's the minimum amount of time that you can expect to be on there for. But not everyone is so lucky. There have been many incidents over the years where technical issues have led to hundreds of visitors being stuck, sometimes for hours. And once stuck, passengers are ultimately trapped inside their pods where they have no access to food or bathrooms. But they do have access to an emergency pack which contains water, a first aid kit and thermal foil blankets, as temperatures can get very cold inside the capsules. The standard procedure for when the ride breaks down is for it to be handled by the technical team. And in one 2016 incident, passengers even called emergency services themselves after being stuck for more than an hour. Conditions can be windy and rainy, and you're a very long way up from the ground. It's an unpleasant and unsettling situation to be in. And in January 2024, the winds were so strong that one of the emergency exit hatches located on the roof of the pods blew open whilst 120 metres up in the air, terrifying the poor family inside. Other visitors have taken to TripAdvisor expressing their thoughts. One review reads, "During our supposed 30-minute rotation, the wheel got stuck or stopped several times, and it took us well over an hour to make the full rotation. Upon exiting the London Eye, they did offer us hot cocoa or coffee to make up for the inconvenience. I went inside to pick up the official guidebook as a souvenir and found out that I was able to get a full refund because we were stuck on the Eye for an extended period. The refund is the only thing that made it worth it, but they didn't tell the other 100 or so customers that only got hot cocoa for their troubles." And another says, "We were stuck on the Eye for 4 hours due to technical difficulties. Information from staff on the ground was useless. 16 people in the pod with a guide, Claudia, who was fantastic but unprepared for this situation. Emergency provisions brought out which included 5 foil blankets, Lucasade tablets and paper potties. Not enough for everyone. Very frightening when all emergency services arrived and area cordoned off. When we finally got down, we were offered a Diet Coke and a bar of chocolate." But there were also tons of good reviews, and the majority of the time people enjoy themselves and are pleased that they went. So if you can brave the extreme heights, I'd still recommend that you give this one a go, especially as its future right now is uncertain, with the London Eye's lease for its famous spot on the River Thames running out in 2028. Some of you might find this next one upsetting, but I feel it important. Being a lone female traveller anywhere in London. This is a difficult subject, and I wasn't sure if I should include it on this list, but if you're a lone female traveller, I feel like it really shouldn't be overlooked. Internet searches and general guidance says that London is safe for female tourists, and for the most part, it certainly is. But I wouldn't want anyone visiting to feel some sort of false sense of security and think that it's a good idea to go to secluded areas alone or walk the streets at night, because like most places, it just isn't safe to do that. Over the last few years, London's Met Police has had numerous serious scandals, which have exposed countless predators amongst their own ranks. as well as the discovery of multiple failings to ensure women's safety or to take victims of crime seriously. In 2022, figures showed that over 9,000 Rs were reported in London in just 1 year. This shocking number equates to more than 24 of these awful crimes a day. And in 2023, a serving police officer was discovered to be one of Britain's most prolific R-words. He was found guilty of over 49 offences. Not long before that, there was another absolutely shocking case in 2021 when a young woman was just walking home when she was stopped by a police officer. He then proceeded to essay her and tragically end her life. It isn't the place to say more about this here, but you can look up more on these cases if you want to. After these awful crimes hit the news, women started to speak out about their awful experiences, and it was reported by Channel 5 that police officers were being reported of R and SO at a rate of 1 a week after the news broke. Investigators discovered that just over the previous 5 years, 800 of Britain's police officers had been reported for R, SOs and other serious offences, with many of them being allowed to keep their jobs in law enforcement. And with so many of those who are tasked with keeping women safe being actual predators themselves, it's no surprise that the rates of prosecution for these appalling crimes is shockingly low. A whole range of other failings were also discovered during a review into the Met Police in 2023. They found that crucial evidence from R and SA cases had been contaminated by lunchboxes or damaged by broken fridges. The Evening Standard reported that between May 2016 and March 2021, 36,905 Rs had been reported in London. But out of all of those, only 2,026 led to a suspect being charged. That's just over 5%. The shocking numbers echo the comments of one unnamed police officer who said back during the Met Review that, "If you look at our performance around R, serious SOs, the detection rate is so low, you may as well say it's legal in London." Women's trust in the police has been shattered, and the streets of London feel less safe than ever. I even bought my teenage nieces, who live in the city, personal safety alarms a couple of Christmases ago. I'd recommend lone female travellers to invest in a personal safety alarm if you can. I bought the ones for my nieces from empoweredbyashley.com, and they aren't hard to find online. I'd also recommend taking extra care to know your route and plan your journeys beforehand, making you less likely to look lost or need to ask strangers for directions, as this is a prime opportunity for anyone with bad intentions to lead you somewhere secluded, which can happen surprisingly quickly when you're in an unknown area. With just a few quick turns, you could find yourself away from the safety of a busy and crowded London street and into a dark, secluded alleyway and in a dangerous situation. If you're out late having fun, it's not uncommon to miss your last train. But if you're relying on the London Underground to get you back to your hotel, it might be helpful to set an alarm on your phone to give you warning before your last train leaves. And if you do miss it, maybe opt for a licensed taxi instead of walking. But as I said, guidance online states that London is a safe city for female tourists, and compared to other cities around the world, and for the most part it certainly is, millions come and have a great time during their trip. It just doesn't hurt to stay aware of the potential dangers that might be lurking on the streets of London. Next on our list is Regent's Canal. London has some beautiful canals that seem almost out of place in the busy city. They're usually a place of calm, a little escape from the chaos and the crowdedness of London. The Regent's Canal is one of London's most famous, and it was the first commercial canal built in Britain, opening in 1820. It's been described as a hidden gem, and as one of London's best-kept secrets, and has rapidly been becoming more and more popular for leisurely walks and idyllic boat trips. One of the canal's most popular spots is in Camden. The famous Camden Market sits right beside the canal, and many enjoy hanging out at the famous Camden Lock. But the canal runs through many parts of London, and not all places feel as safe as others do. It's important to remember and respect the fact that the Regent Canal feeds off of the River Thames. And just like the Thames, it's extremely dirty. It's filled with sewage, rubbish, pollution, hidden dangers like submerged shopping trolleys, deadly diseases, and a ton of other nasty surprises. You should never attempt to swim in the canal, and jumping in can be extremely dangerous. It's even advised that you wash your hands if you get them wet to avoid becoming unwell from the dirty, germ-ridden canal water. London was also the 4th highest place in the UK for drownings last year, and many tragic accidents have happened in the past. There aren't really any barriers to stop people falling in, and the canal can be especially dangerous for those who have been drinking. Walking home from a fun night out with friends and accidentally stumbling and falling into the water does happen. I've added a link to the London Fire Brigade's guide to water safety in the description, which you might want to check out before you travel. Aside from the water risk, there are other dangers lurking in London's canal system. The secluded narrow pathways and dark, eerie tunnels make the canal a hotspot for crime, with a large and varied list of criminal activity reported, from cyclists being pushed into the water by gangs as part of horrible gang initiations, to moored boats being burgled. And many robberies, with one unfortunate TripAdvisor reviewer writing, "Avoid severe danger of being robbed." I am a local to London and would suggest that you do not walk along the canal on your visit here. It is very easy to stray into a dangerous part of London along the canal, since you cannot see how the neighbourhood changes from down there. And muggers love the canal, as it has no lights and is not patrolled by the police. I have personally been robbed here while running and was very severely beaten. If you do decide to go, stay between Regent's Park and Camden. Do not go past Camden Lock, with other commenters saying, "Not safe. Dead body found in Regent's Canal, 11th of October, 7 a.m. Do not come here, it's not safe. No CCTV as well. It is in the news, please check." And another that reads, "Pushed into a canal. I was cycling home along a canal and some little thug pushed me in. Fortunately, the water was shallow enough that I could stand and haul my bike out. Has this happened to you or anyone you know? I'm deeply distressed right now. I don't understand why anyone would do such a thing." The dangerous canal has even been the scene of horrendous essays. In a horrifying incident a few years ago, a woman in her 20s was walking home one night after seeing a friend when she was put through an unimaginable ordeal. She was walking along the canal in the King's Cross area when she realised that she was being followed. The man who was following her then proceeded to essay her, and even when she managed to break free, he didn't give up. He continued to follow her and essay her for a second time. Her awful encounter didn't end until she got away again, once she managed to get across a bridge and alert a security guard who called the police. Nearly a year on from the attack, police were still having difficulties finding who was responsible, leading to the case being featured on Crime Watch in 2021 in the hopes that the public could help. Unfortunately, I couldn't find an update on this case, and I don't know if they were ever caught. If you know more about this, then please let me know. If you do want to explore London's picturesque canal system, there are plenty of walking tours and boat trips available. They're probably a safer option, especially for those who are travelling alone or might feel more comfortable being part of a group. You'll also get the most out of your explorations, as an experienced tour guide will ensure that you don't miss anything interesting or important, whilst also making sure that you don't get lost. Next on the list is Westminster. You might think to yourself that the rougher and more dangerous parts of London are going to be away from the city's vibrant centre. You could presume that you'll be safer if you stick to the major tourist spots, but it may surprise you to know that the worst London borough for crime is actually, shockingly, Westminster. And Westminster is bigger than you might think. It's almost impossible for any tourist to avoid, as it's home to such a large amount of London's most popular tourist attractions and famous landmarks, including the Houses of Parliament and Big Ben, Buckingham Palace, Westminster Abbey, the London Eye, St James Park, Westminster Cathedral, Downing Street, the National Gallery, Trafalgar Square, Leicester Square, Piccadilly Circus, Covent Garden, Hyde Park, Oxford Street, London Zoo, and so many more. It's also home to a wide range of pubs, bars, and theatres. Westminster is basically tourist central and will undoubtedly be where most tourists spend the majority of their time whilst in London. In 2023, over 93,000 crimes were reported in the London Borough of Westminster, with more than 26,000 of these being thefts from person, like muggings and pickpockets. But even more worryingly, not only is Westminster the worst London borough for crime rates overall, it's also ranked the worst for knife crime, with over 1,000 reported incidents in 2023 alone. It's rare for tourists to get mixed up in these types of crimes, but it's still a good idea to be aware of what could be going on around you. Most knife crime in London is gang-related, but incidents involving tourists, although rare, do happen in London. Last year, a Chinese tourist suffered wounds to his arm while he was waiting to enter the British Museum. And in 2016, a 19-year-old man ran through Russell Square, randomly injuring whoever he came across. This resulted in the tragic death of an American tourist who was just enjoying the last day of her trip with her husband. They were supposed to be flying home the next day. 5 others were also injured, with nearly all of his victims being tourists. And although these particular examples didn't happen in Westminster exactly, they are just outside the borough's border. It's always worth being vigilant and paying attention to what's going on around you. You'll be able to react quickly if you ever need to and remove yourself from any danger where necessary. Another popular tourist spot is Trafalgar Square. Trafalgar Square is home to the National Gallery, and the famous statue Nelson's Column is found here. For years, tourists and locals have enjoyed clambering onto this magnificent statue. It's a great place to sit and watch London go by, to take photos, and to just generally hang out on. The base of the statue is pretty easy to get up onto, with a quick push off a small ledge and you're up. Getting down can be a little trickier, but usually isn't too much trouble. Things start to get harder when people decide to climb onto the 4 bronze lions that surround Nelson's Column. The statues don't really look that high up. That is until you climb onto them and look back down. Then you realise that you're actually 11 feet off the ground. That's as high as an average bungalow, and getting back down can seem harder than getting up was. This has led to many accidents over the years, with one incident in 2015 which resulted in the air ambulance being called after a woman had fallen from one of the lions and hit her head. Not only are the lions seemingly the most dangerous part of the statue, they were also being badly damaged by the amount of tourists who would climb on them. Luckily, there are now signs around the statue warning people not to climb on the lions, which some are disappointed about, as climbing on the famous statues has been enjoyed by generations. But the potential danger and the damage that tourists were causing makes me pleased that new rules came into place. Trafalgar Square is also a very dangerous spot for road accidents, and the area by Trafalgar Square's 4th plinth is actually ranked as the #1 most dangerous landmark for road accidents in the whole of the United Kingdom. So be extra careful with crossing the road here and keep back away from traffic as much as you can. One more thing that might spoil an otherwise pleasant visit to Trafalgar Square is if there happens to be any demonstrations or protests happening there that day. The atmosphere during these protests can get intense and intimidating, There's usually a high police presence, but things can often get rowdy, aggressive, or out of hand. I'd strongly suggest avoiding any demonstrations unless you want to join in or be mistaken for taking part. The places that were featured on this list in Part 1 and Part 2 are must-see sites for most tourists visiting the area. Don't let it put you off. Still go and see the wonderful sights and attractions that London has to offer. Just be sensible and look out for your safety and that of those around you. Like travelling anywhere, it's best to be prepared and informed so that you can have the best possible trip you can. If you've got any safety tips or advice that I've not mentioned here, then please leave them in the comments. I'm sure they'll be helpful for those looking to visit. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching Tales from Our Dark Past. Join us next time and check out our other videos if you found this one interesting.